Hey everyone, and welcome to Making Medicare Fun, where we talk about what to do, what to know now that you're on Medicare. My name is Ricky Stewart. I'm a licensed independent agent serving my clients on Medicare here in Northwest Florida and beyond. And today we have on Doug Shellabarger. He works with long-term care. He is an independent financial advisor, and he is going to talk today about why long-term care may be a good option for you. You know, what to know, what to do, and what to ask now that you're on Medicare. We're going to talk about all of that surrounding long-term care. So how are you, Doug?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Ricky.
Yeah. So you're in Tampa, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. You are connected all over the U.S. to help people.
Yeah, exactly. And in addition to that, yeah, I've got people that are all the way as far away as California. So pretty
Okay.
much across the country.
Okay, so that's so good to know. So this podcast goes out to my clients and their friends. I'll put Doug's contact information at the end of this podcast if you scroll down to the podcast description, and he'll be able to help you out. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
All right. So from my standpoint, I am basically a financial advisor. I look out for the well-being of clients, whether it be their finances or insurance or basically anything like that. I'm of the belief that a typical financial plan should encompass not only gathering assets, but also protecting those assets. And that's really where what we're talking about today, the long-term care insurance, really comes into play.
Well, and that's the thing when I'm sitting with clients, sometimes long-term care is something that's pushed to the back burner in their minds, I can tell. But just from my own family experience, knowing how much long-term care does help the family, we want to know a little bit about what long-term care is and then how it can help us.
Absolutely. So, really, I kind of like to use almost like a history lesson when it comes to long-term care insurance. Now, long-term care insurance has been around for a long time. And basically, what that is it's going to be coverage if you cannot perform 2 out of the 6 activities of daily living. And what those activities of daily living consist of is bathing, eating, dressing, transferring, toileting, and continence. And basically, what that's saying is you need help, and that is to take care of yourself. So, when it comes to long-term care insurance, we've had in the past, we've had a product that basically says if you have to go into a nursing home, this insurance policy is going to pay a portion of the fees that are charged for that nursing home. Well, that was all well and good. And I mean, we've had those types of policies, like I said, for quite some time. But what's happened is there's some problems with those old policies. And to use the scenario of what those problems are, I always like to go back to my own parents because this is a real life story. When it comes to my father bought a long-term care policy, paid the premiums. Unfortunately, he passed away before he ever got to use those policies. So the old style long-term care policies really were a use it or lose it type scenario. My mother, on the other hand, is still alive and kicking at 86 years old. She's paid her premiums in, but over time, what's happened to those premiums? The insurance companies have raised the rates on them.
Right.
So in her case, there was no price certainty. So both of these situations, long-term care was very important to my parents. But in this case, my dad never got to use his, and he paid all that money in, kind of like your house insurance. You pay all that premium in, but if your house doesn't burn down, you kind of feel like you just lost all that money.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, my mother, who had this policy all this time, her premiums keep going up. Again, kind of like your house insurance, you see the premiums rise every year and you wonder, why do I have these types of policies? So the old style types of long-term care policies, which are still around today, do have some problems with them. But luckily, kind of over time, these new style of policies have kind of evolved. So there are policies out there that can basically give you the long-term care coverage that you need and making sure that you don't ever outlive those policies or you don't lose that coverage.
I like that. It's giving me everything I want. Like I'm paying for this and I get it. So tell me, how does it work if I do pay into my long-term care policy, and then I pass away. I mean, would it be the situation like with your dad where you don't use it and you lose it?
Right. So these new style of policies, and we call them hybrid policies, these new style of policies have the option of, if you were to pass away before you ever needed the long-term care, your family would get a tax-free death benefit paid out to them. Okay. So it would be one of those things where, quite frankly, if you paid into the policy, no matter what happens, somebody's going to get paid.
Okay. And you know what?
We like to
I'm
call
so
that
glad.
story, we like to call that story live, die, or walk away. Because
Okay.
if you live, you need long-term care coverage. If you die, you pass away, your beneficiaries are going to get a tax-free death benefit. And oh, by the way, the third option in there is walk away. There's cash value in these policies. If you decide suddenly that you don't need a policy like this anymore, you can just take the cash and go home.
So, someone going on Medicare, I'm really talking to my 65 plus right now for
Mm-hmm.
my client 65 plus. Is it a situation where, hey, I'm turning 65 or hey, I'm retiring, whatever the situation is for you, a 65 plus, when is the right I don't want to say when's the right time to talk to you because you're going to say as soon as possible, but I mean, is it too late when you're 70 to look into long-term care or 65? I'm thinking long-term care is something that I look at in my 40s, you know?
Actually, it's not. So the key with these types of policies that we have today, you can get coverage up into your mid 70s. Now, does it get more expensive? Obviously, it does, because the likelihood of needing this coverage at those ages go up. Therefore, the insurance companies are going to charge more money.
Mhm.
However, we've got plans available that you can either say, I want to pay a premium every month or every year, or we actually have plans available that say, I have a bank CD sitting there that's earning a couple of percentage points a year. I could use that to leverage that money and create these benefits as a single premium where you don't have to pay any more premiums into the policy at all.
Okay. Okay, so there's options. I mean, what if it's one of those things where someone comes to you and they're like, "Look, I just don't know if I can afford this."
Right, right. It's always one of those things where you want to look and say, okay, is this something that I can afford from the standpoint of, is it going to adversely affect my quality of life? And we never want to
Mhm.
put somebody in a position where the premiums that they have to pay for insurance are more than they have to pay for, being able to have the electricity on their house, in their house on, or being able to put food on
Right.
the table.
Right.
But at the same time, when you look at what the current costs are associated with your spouse or family member going into a nursing home, you realize that this coverage is so important, because it is very easy to see your assets completely depleted
Mhm.
by even a short stay in the nursing home.
Yeah. Oh, it's so sad, and I'm sure you have stories to share about that.
I do indeed. I do indeed.
So, for the person who's listening, maybe their situation is different or the same as what you're thinking, or they're like, I want to be prepared for the future. I have tons of questions.
Absolutely. So the key with it is we're asking the right questions. We want to have this discussion. We need to bring this to the attention of people so they are aware of, the possibilities of products out there that can help offset the costs that are associated with this.
Yeah.
So it really is one of those things where we start the conversation with taking a look at what their assets and liabilities are and what their needs are. So once we get an idea of what the needs are, then we can go ahead and take a look and say, okay, now we've got this pool of money that's available, whether it be premiums that are paid on a regular basis or just a single premium. And let's see if we can't figure out what's going to be the best option for the client to be able to, get this coverage that they need and have that protection while not adversely affecting their finances.
Right. And I just want to say this about you, Doug. That's why I trust you when I send my clients to you. I'm like, hey, tell them that Ricky sent you, and you are going to ask them, what are your needs? I want to take care of you, all my expertise in this to help you. How long have you been working with long term care, Doug?
Oh boy, we're going up on 30 years now, just from the standpoint of looking at this from, what clients' needs are, and everything that we do in our practice. And it's all needs based. We want to look at what the specific aspects of an individual client are. Mm-hmm. You can't use this idea that everybody needs this, because it's not that way. Each person is an individual, and we have to take a look at that and say, okay, based on what your needs are, we're going to plan for you. It's not something where we can just say everybody gets this.
Right. And you don't want to think that one day you can't do 2 out of 6 daily activities. You don't want to think that that could be your life, but it could be. And that's why you come to people like Doug and myself, for health insurance, Medicare insurance, because you want to be prepared and you don't want your family to be, responsible for the bills or stressed out with anxiety, trying to figure out how to take care of you. So it's not something that people wake up and are excited to talk about, except for Doug and I. And that's
right.
who you want to connect with, someone who's looking out for you.
Right. We call it planning for a reason. It's if the situation arises where you're already in a nursing home, I'm afraid it's a little too late to get long-term care insurance at that point in time.
Yeah.
So, this does take some advanced planning. So where you're looking forward into the future to be able to take care of these problems and be best prepared to be able to handle the financial burden of what these things can do to a family.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll name this podcast: advanced planning, long-term care.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Doug. And how can we connect with you?
Absolutely. So obviously the easiest way to get a hold of me is on my cell phone. That is area code 727-512-6700. And then you can also send me an email. My email address is doug@innovateyourinsurance.com.
Okay. And I will put that in the description of this podcast. So don't worry if you need it. If you're one of my clients, you can always text me and I can forward you his contact information. But yeah, really grateful for this time. So Doug, the last question, and I ask every guest this on Making Medicare Fun, is from your experience, 30 years of working in long-term care, what do you recommend for my clients to make the most fun out of Medicare?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. All this stuff requires an open line of communication. So to be quite, honest about it, this is one of those things where you need to pick up the phone. You got to have an open line of communication. So it's all about telling people what your needs and wants are and being able to come up with a solution for it.
Exactly. And you can always say no. At least just learn something new today, grow in a new way, be open to it, and hear what Doug can do to help you out. So I really appreciate your time today. I was actually excited about this because I'm like, people talk about long-term care a lot, but what is it and why do I need it and why is it good for me? So you've answered all those questions today. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
I think that does it.
Thank you so much, Doug. Thanks for joining us. And for you who's listening, thank you so much. Please share this with your friends or family or anyone that you think would benefit from this information today on long-term care. And that's it for us. I'm Ricky Stewart, a licensed independent agent serving my clients here in Northwest Florida and Alabama. You can find out more about what I do at insuredbyricky.com. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.